Hello and welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg. My name is Greg Deckler, and today we're going to be installing Docker on Windows. I realize that that may be a kind of a weird thing for this channel to be doing, but recall that we are going to be taking a look at alternatives to Power BI after Microsoft has put like almost zero investment into Power BI Desktop over the last year and a half and then jacked the price up of Pro by 40%, right? It's time to at least take a look at what other things are out there. One, it's just a good idea to know that sort of stuff in general, to know that whether you're going down the right path or not, whether what the alternatives are. But also to, just despite Microsoft and their stupid 40% price jump, we're going to be exploring other tools. Now, and I learned enough, but just by looking at the requirements for Apache Superset and in Metabase, even though we were able to get Metabase installed like lickety split in under a minute, by downloading the jar file and then running, a command line Java and pointing up the jar file, and boom, we were up and running. There was also a Docker component to Metabase, a way to run Metabase with Docker, and a way to run Apache Superset with Docker. And if you're not familiar with Docker, it's basically think of virtual applications, right? It's just a container in which you run an application, more or less, kind of just like a virtual machine. Same concept. So anyway, but now we'll also probably be taking a look at things like Sigma. We'll be taking a look at maybe Omni and also Astrato. Now we'll probably look at and you might want to say, well, why aren't we looking at Tableau or Looker or MicroStrategy or Click? And we may get to that at the end of the series, right? But I think Click and Tableau, everybody knows Power BI versus Click and Tableau, right? And maybe Looker, not so much, and MicroStrategy not so much, but we're really looking at more of the dark horses that are out there, and that's the way I look at it. So now the only thing annoying about Sigma and Omni is that they don't provide any pricing information. And I find that if there's one thing that's going to turn me off about your product, it's that you're not upfront about licensing, right? Because, oh, try it for free. Why do I want to put my time and effort into trying your stupid product if you're not going to tell me how much it costs, right? Because I'm going to try it and it's like, this is great. Oh, no, it's $70 million a year. Well, screw that. Now I just wasted a bunch of time. So we may not take a look at Sigma and Omni, just again, despite them, because they are not upfront about licensing, right? So hate that. In this day and age, especially with cloud, come on, get real, people. But Astrato, they are like, it is at least for the base licensing, the starter licensing, it's $12 per user per month. So cheaper than Power BI now. It was more expensive, now it's cheaper. Okay, so back to the topic at hand. How are we going to get Docker installed on Windows 11? Well, I don't even know the answer to that. So what we do is of course, we Bing or Google whatever Docker Windows 11, and we get started with Docker remote containers on WSL2. If I'm not mistaken, WSL stands for Windows Services for Linux or something like that. Oh, Windows Subsystem for Linux. Close. So we need to Docker desktop for Windows WSL2. So anyway, so all I've done is I literally like Bing this and then I like, okay, this is what it's going to take. And instead of doing this off camera, I figured let's just do it together. Hopefully this won't be more than 20 minutes or so. But anyway, so we need WSL that. Okay, that's cool. And then 64-bit processor, I have that. I'm assuming I'm on the latest Windows that I need. We'll just assume that I keep it up to date. So there you go. And it is Pro. We've got enough RAM. We've got enable hardware virtualization in BIOS. No idea if that's done or not, but we'll find out, I'm sure. Install WSL and set up your username and password for your Linux distribution. So that is I don't install Linux on WSL on Windows WSL. So we have to do WSL dash dash install. So what's interesting is like if you just like type WSL, like see there's WSL run command. And well, sorry, you guys can't see that. But if you just run it, right, it comes up and says, hey, you need to install this. Well, why didn't you just install it for me, for the love of God, or give me the option to install it? Oh, it's going to give me the option to install it. Windows, you want to change this? Yes. Oh, look at that. We didn't have to follow the directions. We just had to type WSL. Installing Windows Subsystem for Linux. 2.3.26. So that's good because they told us that we want to have WSL2, not WSL1. Okay. You can change the default Linux distribution installed. Default distribution is Ubuntu. This can be changed by using the -d flag. Don't care. I've used Slack. I've used a Red Hat. I've used all kinds of different versions of Linux. Once you've installed WSL, you'll need to create your user account password for your newly installed Linux distribution. See the best practices for setting up a WSL environment. We'll get to go to another place. Let's see. Create a, how do we do this? Please create a default Unix account. The username does not. So we didn't. So when we ran it, it just installed it. Great. Okay, so let's maybe type WSL again. What? Some crazy stuff going on here. If I type in WSL, it says system. Doesn't do anything that I can tell. WSL, there's WSL settings. Okay, that's not helping me. So maybe we just need to run a command line. Okay. To change or reset your password, open the Linux distribution and enter the command password. I did not get this this create a username. I totally mucked it up, I'm sure. Open PowerShell and enter the root of your default WSL. Okay, PowerShell. Let's do PowerShell. You know this stuff ever, well, I guess I should have followed directions. PowerShell, but I'm not one to do that. I just wing it. Okay, so WSL-U root has no installed distributions. List online distributions, and then, okay, WSL.exe -- install. Okay, we are going to follow instructions this time. Hey, installing Ubuntu. Okay, great. Did I skip a step somewhere along the lines, or I just no, I just didn't follow directions. Yeah, I should have done this in PowerShell. Upgrade from WSL1 to WSL2. I don't have to do that because I'm already on WSL2 from what I can tell. Installing. I don't know what it did. Okay, enter a new Unix username. GDEC. Okay, is it going to show my password or not? Okay, it's not going to show anything. That's kind of concerning. Unix is so jank. I mean, really, you don't even show little stars or anything? Come on. Okay. So GDEC and then my password. Okay, we're back to what's next. We don't care about that. Set up username and password. Update and upgrade packages. So let's see here. sudo pt update and sudo apt upgrade. Go. Set up Windows Terminal. I recommend using WSL with Windows Terminal, especially if you plan to work with multiple command lines. See the Windows Terminal docs for help setting it up and customizing your preferences, including install Windows Terminal or Windows Terminal Preview from the Microsoft Store. Use the command palette. Do you want to continue? As I say, after this operation, okay, sure, you can use that amount of disk space. There's Terminal and Store. It's still going. Let's go ahead and get this installed while we're waiting. View and Store. Apparently I have it already. Maybe? Yes, I do have it. Okay. It's called Windows PowerShell. Oh, Microsoft. You guys kill me. How's this going? All right, that looks like it. That went ahead and did that. I mean, literally, so here's what happened, people. So I said, okay. Where was it that it said install Windows Terminal? Okay, so I went to view and store, right? And then I said it says open, right? So I open it, and over on the screen, what pops out? Windows PowerShell. So how does that work again? So you're just downloading just PowerShell? That doesn't make any sense to me. Let's go Windows Terminal Installer. Let's open that. Windows Terminal, checking for updates. Latest version is installed. It's PowerShell. Why? Why, Microsoft? Why would you call it Why don't you just call it PowerShell for the love of God? Okay, anyway, you always learn something stupid about Microsoft when you're doing this stuff. Oh, that's something else. All right, so check which version you're running. Let's say you can list your installed Linux distributions and check the version of WSL each is set by the entering command line WSL-1-L-V. Set the default version to WSL 1 or 2. WSL-L-V. Okay, so maybe I need a different PowerShell window. WSL-L-V. Version 2. Great. That's what we want. Okay. We don't need to worry about this stuff then. All right. Back to this. So install that. Sign up for Docker ID at Docker Hub. Where do we actually install Docker? Install. Okay, so this is all. So that's optional, 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 optional. Great. After already installing WSL, okay, we got that done. All right, so we click on this. All right, now we're on a Docker website and turn on Docker Desktop WSL2. Prerequisites. Download and install the latest version of Docker Desktop for Windows. Great. Oh, there it is. Follow the usual install instructions. Come on. There we go. Open file. Okay, it's asking me, do I want to install it? Yes. It looks like we might have to restart. Okay. So maybe this will be in two parts, or this is the first part of installing it, and then I'll make a second part where we actually use the thing. I don't know. We'll have to see. This is the stuff with like, it just always seems to me, and it seems maybe I don't know why, like Microsoft is like falling into this same trap or whatever. It's like, don't you think like open source people, like you could actually make this easy? It's already Docker desktop for Windows, right? Why can't you just check to see if WSL is installed? And then if it's not, just go ahead and install it, right? Just run WSL dash dash install, you know, have a nice little screen that pops up and says username and password and allows you to set it, right? And then go and install this, right? This is like the jankiest, install. Like, what kind of a wizard install is this anyway? Like, how sad is this? Like, this is my problem with open source. It's always half-assed, right? In terms of, and it's always like way harder than it needs to be. Like, I grew up using command line. The command line is not something that is foreign to me. And I ran Linux distributions, and I ran entire web systems for large newspaper and TV conglomerates, and it was all Apache and all, and then Linux and all of that sort of stuff. So it's not foreign to me. It's just stupid to me. It's all half-assed, right? There's no consideration for user interface or anything like that. It's just like, oh, it's like this stupid attitude where it's like, oh, well, that's not really needed, and that's too much work to actually like have some sort of actual quality. So so must restart Windows to complete installation. Okay, so I think we've got this installed. After that nice tirade by myself about open source and my problems with it, we're gonna end this video and restart, and I'll probably maybe make another one to say was it successful or not. So that's all I had for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.